The ayes are 68, the noes are 55. The question is agreed.
The Honourable Megan Woods.
Mr Speaker, I vividly recall visiting rest homes in my electorate of Wigram and talking to rest home workers and carers who had received pay increases under pay equity. They told me stories of being able to afford the bus to travel to work for the first time. They told me stories of not having to walk home for 40 minutes at the end of a shift because they simply could not afford other forms of transport. They told me about the dignity of being able to supply their families and their kids with some treats from time to time. This is the difference that paying women workers their fair share makes to lives. And Mr Speaker, we have a disgraceful move from a government today that is stripping away the rights of 33 groups of other women, largely women workers, to progress their pathway to dignity. And that is what this government is stripping away. We see a sea of suits sitting opposite us. I challenge every woman in the government parties to come down, take a call and explain to other women why they think it is their right to legislate away their pathway to dignity and to being valued what they are worth, because that is what the members opposite are doing today. Make no bones about it. The Prime Minister said it on the tiles in the way into question time today. He talked about the money savings that are going to come from this legislative change. David Seymour was just about leaping with delight about the billions of dollars that his minister had saved with this legislative change. Those dollars are being stolen out of the pockets of women across this country. They are not theoretical dollars. They are dollars that would allow women to be able to afford to take public transport to work or to get to work some other way than adding a 40 or 45-minute walk at the end of a hard shift. We are talking about some of the women workers in this country that do the hardest graft day in and day out. And they are the dollars that this government and every member opposite is going to have to front up to those women across the country and tell them why they thought it was okay to take those dollars out of their pockets and instead use it because they spent too large on tax breaks for landlords and in terms of putting subsidies in place for the tobacco industry. So, Madam Speaker, we cannot underestimate the injustice that is being done to women today. We're being told it's okay, we're just putting in place a less complex system, it's too difficult. We might compare industries with industries that don't make sense, but make no mistake, this is about saving money. We heard the Prime Minister have to correct his statement at the end of question time because when asked whether they'd received advice on it, he said, oh no, it's not about that. But within less than an hour, the Prime Minister was having to backtrack on it because when Cabinet came to make this decision, we know that they received money about the savings. And every time we talk about those savings, I want every member in this House to reflect on where that money could have been. And that is in the pay packet and pockets of some of our lowest paid women in this country that have been historically undervalued for their work. This is not just something sometimes opposition governments do things we don't like a little bit. But Mr Speaker, I remember being in this House and looking up at Christine Bartlett's face when we passed the pay equity legislation, the difference that we as a House and the National Party at the time supported could make to the lives of everyday women. Instead, we have a caucus full of National Party members and ACT and New Zealand First who have sold every low-paid woman worker in this country down the river today. This day will go down in history. This will be the day that women know that this is a government that has turned their back on them, and most of their women MPs aren't even in the House to acknowledge that.
Dr. Lawrence Xu-Nan.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
And to just say this is a spit call too. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, it is incredibly concerning that we are seeing a bill of this nature being introduced under urgency with no preparation, no awareness, no select committee, no way for the New Zealand public and for the people of Aotearoa New Zealand to contribute on something that affects them in a significant way. It is shocking and appalling that this government would like to take the form of an authoritarian government and a dictatorship to allow something like this to go through without the proper democratic process. Shameful. Madam Speaker, the Green Party will not support this bill because it will make it more difficult for groups of women workers to raise pay equity claims. And the fact that you're also holding all current claims, it is absolutely shocking. This bill was introduced, Madam Speaker, by our own Honourable Julianne Genter as Minister of Women. I was widely supported. And it was also supported by the National Party when it was introduced. We saw people who stood up and said how much they wanted this, and also actually criticized people for not raising this early enough. And now you are turning your back on the very thing that you agreed to because the National Party at the end of the day is pandering to their coalition partners. This is not something that is needed. When we hear from the other members from the other side of the House talking about the fact that, women are not being paid less in the workplace. We are seeing women being paid in the workplace. Every scrutiny that we do, everything we do when it comes to public services, we ask, what is their progress towards pay equity? And you see all of them consistently and shockingly says that there's still a lack of pay equity. I can't think of all the ones that the select committee and also the portfolio I'm involved in who can actually confidently say that there is no gender pay gap in public services. And this is going to make it harder and harder for us to move towards that, Madam Speaker. We did see, like I said, the support that we have when it first introduced. And we have heard today from people of Aotearoa outside of Parliament expressing themselves because, again, that was the only opportunity that the New Zealand public is able to express themselves when it comes to this legislation. And I think we are going to be taking their voice into the committee stage coming up later today. Because, again, this bill, Madam Speaker, there is no regulatory impact statement. There is nothing. There is no work. There's no evidence. Everything in this entire bill are vibes. They are hot takes. I don't even know where the source of this information is coming from, Madam Speaker. There is no evidence that supports that this legislation is needed in the first place. And we would love to scrutinize and also ask questions to the minister during the committee stage on every part of this bill. Again, because we have not given the people of Aotearoa New Zealand the opportunity to express themselves through the committee stage. That is disgraceful. Finally, Madam Speaker, I want to say that this Sunday is Mother's Day. Well, happy Mother's Day to all of the mothers with this particular bill that looks to further discriminate women in the workplace, despite the fact that they do similar work, comparable work, but are being paid at a lower rate. We know that it is happening, and we have seen other bills being introduced in the House that calls for pay transparency, but that was also not supported by the governing parties. So, Madam Speaker, the Green Party of Aotearoa New Zealand will not support this bill because it is badly put together. It will put our women workers at more risk and lower pay, and we would love to ask the Minister more questions during the committee stage.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those of that opinion will say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. The ayes have it. Party vote is being called for. Please, Clerk, conduct a party vote.
New Zealand National.
49 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes opposed.
Green Party of Aotearoa New Zealand.
15 votes opposed.
ACT New Zealand.
7 in favour.
New Zealand First.
8 votes in favour.
Te Pāti Māori.
E ono ngā poti kore e whakai.
The ayes are 68, the noes are 55. The question is agreed.